Hello, Clint.
Hello, Chief. How are you?
Good. You can hear me now. Can you see me?
Yes.
That's the first step to our successful meeting.
Excellent. Off to a good start.
I was going to not log off, but just hang out for a minute. And I just wanted to make sure it was working, quite frankly.
Yes. So far, so good.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Sure.
Hi, Clint.
Hi, Julie. Thank you for clerking today.
You're welcome. Hope it's
It'll be good. I'm gonna make you host right now, if that's okay.
okay. So do you want me to show that Word document that you sent to everyone? Potentially, if you need it up, I have it ready just in case. It was
It's the really long one.
yeah, 17 pages, I guess. It's the strategic plan draft. Well,
right.
Anyway, I
Yeah.
have it ready just in case.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And you can always make me host as well, and then I can share my screen because there may be some editing with it, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll make you a co-host, I guess. Can we do
okay. Yeah, I can't. I'm not able to make you a co-host from here. I can only make you host.
that? Okay. Looks like you're still the host.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. All right. Well, if you need me to host, why don't you do that? Otherwise, it's like the timer and stuff for public comment. I guess I would need to be a host for that, or make me a co-host though.
Correct. All right. I just made you host, so that should work. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Hello, everybody. We'll give it another minute or two to see who else joins us.
So far, we only have 6 members. And we
I was
have a
just
total of
trying-
15.
trying to do the math, so I appreciate that. We'll have to, we'll give it another
We need
minute or
one
so.
more. And do we normally move Chad over too? Yeah. Okay. We just reached the magic number. I'm just moving Ian over.
All right, and we'll give it just another minute as well to see if anyone else joins us, but we do have enough members, so we'll begin here shortly.
Chief, just let me know when you're going to start so I can start the recording before we get going here.
Perfect. Just sent a couple of texts out to
Okay.
check on the status. We'll give it another 60 seconds or so.
Oh, here's Nolan.
The public defender, she just said she'll be here in a minute or two. She's running just a tad late. All right, well, let's get the meeting started since we do have enough members. Again, the public defender will be joining us shortly, and I'll wait to hear back from anybody else. With that being said, Julie, can we get a roll call of the members, please?
Yes, Member Evans.
Present.
Thank you. Member Jakowski. Absent. Member Johnson.
Present.
Member Lewis. He's absent. Member Miller.
Present.
Member Nigel. He is absent. Member Olson. Absent. Member Raven. Absent. Member Sullivan.
Here.
Member Valdez.
Present.
Member Vega.
Present.
Member Villegas,
Present.
and Member Fruitnick.
Present.
And we have quorum.
Thank you. Brings us to agenda item number 2, consider approval of the agenda. I hope everybody's had an opportunity to look at the agenda. And if anyone would like to make any changes or comments, please let me know. If not, can I get a motion to approve, please?
Chair will make the motion to approve agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second to approve. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Member Evans?
Aye.
Member Jakowski, absent. Member Johnson?
Aye.
Member Lewis? Absent. Member Miller?
Aye.
Member Nigel? Absent. Member Olson?
Aye.
Member Raven? Absent. Member Sullivan?
Yes.
Member Valdez?
Yes.
Member Vega?
Yes.
Member Villegas?
Yep.
Member Fruitnick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Brings us to number 3. It's a vote to authorize remote meetings by finding pursuant to Assembly Bill 361 that the COVID-19 pandemic state of emergency is ongoing and meeting in person would present imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees. This just reauthorizes us to meet remotely. If that's still acceptable to the group, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
First by Ann, is there a second?
I'll second. It's Nolan.
Second by Nolan. Julie, can we get a vote to approve remote meetings?
Member Evans?
Aye.
Member Jakowski's absent. Member Johnson?
Aye.
Member Lewis is still absent. Member Miller?
Aye.
Member Nigel? Absent. Member Olson?
Aye.
Member Raven? Absent. Member Sullivan?
Yes.
Member Valdez?
Aye.
Member Vega?
Yes.
Member Villegas?
Yes.
Member Fruitnick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Brings us to number 4, public comment. Opportunity for members of the public to address the CCP on subjects related to CCP business and not otherwise on the agenda. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Julie, do we have any public comment?
I have no hands raised, Chair.
Thank you. Brings us to agenda item number 5, approve minutes of the May 9th meeting. Does anyone have any changes or comments to the minutes that they would like to see made? If not, can I get, is there a motion to approve?
I will bring up a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a first by Laura. Is there a second?
Miller will second.
Chief Miller, second. Can we get a vote to approve the minutes of the May 9th meeting, please?
Member Evans?
Aye.
Member Jakowski, absent. Member Johnson?
Aye.
Member Lewis, absent. Okay, Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Nigel, absent. Member Olson,
Aye.
Member Raven.
Aye.
Thank you. Member Sullivan,
Yes.
Member Valdez,
Aye.
Member Vega,
Yes.
Member Villegas,
Yes.
and Member Fruitnick.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6, member announcements. Does anyone have any announcements or updates for the group? Quick scan of the box.
Yes,
Oh,
I'll give a quick update. I was waiting to see if Under Sheriff Johnson might pop on, but we've been working for really probably about 4 years now, honestly, on a JBCT program for Yolo County. And the Health and Human Services Agency entered into a revenue agreement with Department of State Hospitals a little bit ago, and is passing funding through to the Sheriff's Department for a CO to support the program and to WellPath, the in-custody mental health provider in the jail. And they officially launched this past Wednesday. So it's a 7-bed program. Unlike other JVCTs, it's not a regional model, so it'll serve YOLO folks only. And they admitted 2 individuals last week. They'll admit 2 weekly until they're up to the 7-bed maximum that's in the contract. And so I think it's been something, we've talked about quite a bit here, and took a lot of support from all the different departments, even though it's not directly involved, to get us to this place. And, definitely a welcome addition, I think, to our criminal justice behavioral health system. So just excited that that's up and running. I think it'll help keep folks local. It'll restore them to competency quicker, and we won't hopefully have 6 to 12 month waiting time periods for Department of State hospital placements moving forward.
I concur, Ian. I know I wasn't present on Wednesday, but the sheriff was, and we're definitely looking forward to the process, and we're glad to see it up and running, and it's a great thing for Yolo County.
Good to hear for sure. Anybody else with any updates or announcements?
This is Jonathan. I just wanted to piggyback on that. This is really huge, this JVCT. We've had very, very ill people sitting in our jails for 6 months, a year, like Ian said. And now to have them in a separate wing of the jail, getting the treatment that they need for restoration, it's really, really significant. So I hope people realize that. And to everyone that got this moving, hats off to all of you. It's great.
All right, scanning the boxes. I don't see anybody coming off of mute or lighting up. So we'll move on to agenda item number 7. Receive an update on the budget for fiscal year 22-23, and I'll turn it over to Laura with probation. Is she able to come? There she is.
Good afternoon, Laura Lidicote, CCP Fiscal Support with a brief budget update. The governor's May revision to the 22-23 fiscal year budget was released on May 13th, and included in that revision is an anticipated $140 million increase to CCP growth. The County Department of Financial Services has not yet completed the revised revenue projections to include that amount, but an increased growth allocation at the state level indicates that the county would receive additional funding. Revised revenue projections will be available at the next CCP meeting in anticipation of the adopted budget process. That's it from me.
Any questions by the CCP members? Ian?
Thanks for the update, Laura. And I know, we don't have final numbers yet. So this is probably more of a topic for future, but I think given we have additional funding, I know we have a couple programs that CCP is either directly funding right now or supports, one of them being the JMHC grant that the DA's office is administering. That's set. We hope to get a 1-year no-cost extension on that because we have some leftover funding and have that go through next June or August and keep that double capacity for mental health court. That's the one that allowed us to go from 15 to 30 people. We're looking at other funding sources, once that runs out, but I think, given the additional funding for CCP, that might be a good opportunity to kind of leverage that funding to ensure that we keep that 30 capacity. I think the mental health diversion program too, that the DA and public defender brought to this group and CCP is funded, seems to be growing really well. And I've heard from folks that there may be a need for, even additional capacity with that program. So something CCP might want to consider for additional funding moving forward. And I'm sure there'll be others that come along, but we're in a great period of growth, it sounds like, and always want to be prudent around setting some for reserve, obviously, but I think we've got some great programs that we've stood up and, could expand or we want to continue going on. So just want to put on folks' radar. Thanks for that update, Laura.
No problem. And there are additional treatment dollars available from the excess revenue received this fiscal year. and because we did not appropriate to the full percentage capacity of treatment this fiscal year as well. So there will be treatment-based fund balance available for you to rebudget in July and August, excuse me.
Jonathan?
Yeah, thanks. I was going to say, Ian, do you want to talk about our navigators that we're looking at getting?
The clinicians?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. So we're using MHSA funding to hire 2 clinicians with HHSA. It was also a proposal that Public Defender and DA had put forward as we were going through the additional MHSA funding process. It was approved at mid-year, and so we are working on posting. We have several clinician positions with HHSA we're working on hiring, and hopefully that posting will go out this week. But those 2 in particular will be kind of a criminal justice behavioral health hub, so to speak, where referrals to our collaborative courts and diversion programs and stuff can get referred there. That way we have dedicated clinicians to do an assessment, and they don't have to go hopefully through multiple kind of points in different systems before they can finally land in the right program. And I think for clients, it's really impactful when they have to, can be impactful in a negative way when they have to meet with 2, 3, 4 people to tell their story to before they get into a program. And so the hope with this is that they can meet with one individual, do the assessment, kind of go through their story, and that they can point them in the right direction and get them connected to the right program, whether it's the mental health diversion program through Communicare, whether it's addiction intervention court, mental health court, our felony IST diversion program through DSH grant, any one of those, the JAG program, neighborhood court. So I think there's lots of programs we have ongoing, and we're kind of at that point now where we had to create a central place for them to go and get connected appropriately.
Nolan?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add on to that really quick too. I think one of the things Health and Human Services is experiencing right now, I'm sure many of you are experiencing the same thing. We're having a really hard time just filling vacancies. So clinicians, for example, right now are one of those core positions that we're just really getting pretty low applicant pools when we actually post positions. Social workers right now, we've got a bit of a crisis on the child welfare side, trying to kind of fill those vacancies as well. And then public health nursing is, good luck trying to find a public health nurse right now. It's just been really difficult. And so I do want to level set with the group as well. We're having a much harder time filling vacancies than we have in the past. And so good intentions sometimes lead to significant delays by not being able to fill vacancies. The other piece of that is we do contract out a sizable amount of our mental health and substance abuse services. Our providers are not immune to this curse as well. The providers right now are having a really hard time staffing up their positions. We're having multiple providers coming back asking for increases to their contracts to be more competitive. So I just want to level set with the group. Even though we have positions on the books or plans or ideas or authorized budgeted positions, we're having a really hard time, particularly with social workers, clinicians, and public health nursing positions. So anything from our team that requires those advanced positions or contracts, we're running some pretty sizable delays.
Understood. We'll open it up to public comment on this agenda item. Julie, do we have any public comment?
I see no hands raised, Chair.
All right, thank you. Anything further from the members? Okay, not seeing anything. Brings us to agenda item number 8, receive an update on the 2 scheduled CCP community engagement meetings. And I'll turn it over to Clint.
Thank you, Chief. So we have the 2 meetings scheduled. They are, again, Tuesday, July 19th from 2 to 3:30 and Monday, August 8th from 5 to 6:30. We have also released a press release announcing these with the county, and they have also been listed on the CCP website's calendar for a couple of weeks now. We've been working with the contractor, Yellow Conflict Resolution, to develop a flow for the presentation, as well as working with staff at probation to develop some slides going into the history, legislation of the CCP, et cetera. And what we have developed so far are 2 questions for the breakout sessions. We've planned for 2 breakout sessions of these community outreach meetings. And so we wanted to bring the 2 questions before the CCP membership for your review and approval. The first breakout session question is, please offer your thoughts on the current CCP mission and 3 goals. And the second question is a little bit more broad for the community to offer feedback, and that is, as a community, where would you like to see CCP resources be used? And so again, we're going to have some history, background, budgetary information, first part of the presentation for these community engagement events. And then we will have 2 different breakout groups, each one, or 2 breakout sessions with each one of those sessions, one of those questions being asked. Tracy.
So I'm just remembering how this went last time we did the community engagement. And when we're super broad, you tend to get answers that are out of the scope of the even question. So I'm wondering if the question could be narrower, or a list of options, or not necessarily to exclude creative ideas, because that's one of the reasons we're going to community. I just worry that that's such a broad question that we're going to get a lot of feedback that doesn't really apply to what we're trying to do.
Are you referring to the second question? Where would you like to see CCP resources be used?
No.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a menu would be helpful, and you could always leave something open of, do you have another great idea that you'd like to discuss? But a menu's usually helpful.
Supervisor Villegas?
The audience for these meetings, who's the targeted or intended audience? Is it just the general public, or?
Correct.
The community, the general public, yes. Just to solicit feedback.
Yeah, my experience, I know our intended focus and our objective is to sort of refine aspects of the community corrections partnership, but the average person doesn't have a clue what that is or how it fits into when they walk down the street and experience what they experience. And so, I mean, I might be all in on this, but I suspect at some level, framing the questions, not so much about the parameters around CCP, but really just about, what are your experiences or your thoughts or your ideas, or do you have experience? I mean, I actually go the other way, Tracy, be broader and let them kind of just free flow share their experience about the criminal justice system, what they think ought to be embedded in what the counties do. And then we narrow it down to say, okay, that fits closer into a category that is such, right? I mean, because I think if you assume for a moment that they know what the CCP plan is and have thoughts about it, you've lost 99% of the people. I mean, you're going to be hard pressed to get that. You're going to immediately isolate them from sharing other thoughts. I don't know. That's my experience with doing community outreach, where you invite people and expect them to give you, feedback, even though, unless you tell them this is your homework in advance of coming to the meeting, you got to read the plan.
I know there will be some documents sent out upon registration. I don't know exactly what that's going to be, and also how many individuals will really read through those documents in preparation for the community engagement meetings. Ian.
I mean, looking over the draft agenda, I don't know if the plan was, to go through that kind of PowerPoint style or not, but if so, I wonder if we want to add in at least a slide or 2 on the stepping up sequential intercept map. We've done a lot of work over the last 4+ years on that to kind of map out our system and identify gaps and needs. And we've talked about, as originally formed as an ad hoc of the CCP and how that aligns with a lot of the goals and strategies we've tried to develop here with the CCP. I personally would like to see some, alignment with that in our next strategic plan. And so, introducing it or reintroducing it to some in the community as part of the presentation before we go into questions, I think would be helpful.
All very good comments. Clint and I, when we were trying to figure out what we might do at the community events, struggled with some of these same issues. Do we want to pinpoint it to get down to what needs to be done? Do we want it more general to get an overview? So this conversation helps for sure for us to kind of work on it some more, obviously, and go from there. And then we can PowerPoint's not done or anything like that, so we can make some modifications to it as well. Additionally, hopefully some members will be able to make those meetings, and we can divide up maybe some of the slides for the presentation, etc. As it gets a little closer, we'll kind of meet with everybody and see who's available for what and what they're comfortable presenting on. Chad, your hand's raised.
Chief Furtnick, one way you could split the difference between being general and more specific would be you could have it where you ask people their general thoughts about the criminal justice system, let them provide their thoughts, then give them a little bit of education background about what CCP does and see, now that they know a little bit more about that, do they have anything refined that's more CCP specific? So that's a way, if you wanted to try and bridge the two, you could try to approach it in that format. So that's something you could think about.
Any other input or questions? If not, I'll open it up to public comment on this agenda item. Julie, do we have any public comment?
I have no hands raised at this time, Chair.
Thank you. All right, well, Clint and I will make some revisions, and then we'll kind of circulate it, and we'll go from there. Then we can make sure that we have a decent final product to present during the community meetings. Brings us to number 9, discuss development of the 23-25 CCP strategic plan, including a process to identify goals, objectives, and actions. I'll turn it back over to Clint as well.
All right, thank you again, Chief. So I think I was probably manifesting some hope in sending this out by putting draft on what I did. That is actually the document that we had already received updates on from the past 2 meetings. And so I put draft on it because it isn't an actual draft yet of the developing strategic plan, but what we have already worked on before and kind of using that as the shell to build up what we want to see going forward. That was my intention behind draft. So I just wanted to make it clear that we are going to receive public input first from the community engagement meetings before we move forward with any sort of draft of the strategic plan. That said, we did want to discuss how we want to see that moving forward, the process moving forward. It seems like we have some time on our hands, but in looking at the calendar, we don't have a lot of time on our hands. There will be some special meetings planned specifically around strategic plan development for the CCP in the coming months. So we will bring those before the membership for approval in future meetings. But for right now, we wanted to kind of open it up to all of you to hear what your thoughts are in terms of developing a process for moving the strategic plan forward. Building a space for discussion surrounding the strategic plan. I know we walked through kind of objectives step by step when we gave updates. I don't know if that was a good use of time or if we need to develop a different process, if anyone has any sort of thoughts. This is my first time developing a strategic plan, obviously for the CCP. I've done it before in other organizations, but this is a first one of this specific topic and working in government. So this will be a new process for me. So I will listen to your expertise and your backgrounds when it comes to this discussion and this process.
I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or any great ideas. Again, Clint and I, last couple of weeks have been kind of mulling this over. And do we just all get in a room or a virtual room and just start hammering it out? Do we wait until obviously the public meeting so we get their input and then go from our goals and then break it down to objectives and have another meeting, go action items to solve those objectives? Do we want to try to do it all in one time, which probably will not be super beneficial? Just trying to see what the group would like to do as far as the process on this. And I'm not seeing anyone chiming in. So oh, Ian, go ahead.
Trying to give space for others to speak, but I think my suggestion, I think it's great to wait until after the community feedback. We've talked a lot as a group about wanting their voice as part of this process. And so, having those 2 sessions, I think is important to collect that. So I'm glad you threw that out there, Chief. And, I would suggest we probably more follow the format of the board strategic plan this year. I think we were somewhat close last year, but in terms of, overall goal, and then you have a topic, an outcome, and a metric attached to it, and then strategies of how to get that outcome and metric. I know it's helped in terms of tracking and providing status updates for each of the topics in the board, at least for the ones that I'm, the lead on around homelessness and aging and stuff. And so I think we had conversation in a previous meeting around the strategic plan that, we should move towards like SMART goals or something that is measurable and trackable and hold ourselves accountable that way. And so, even if it doesn't exactly mirror the board's outlay or outline for it, I think, we want to add in metrics or data points that we're updating on a quarterly or biannual basis so that we're tracking progress as we go along. And I think, in terms of how we get there, I think we probably won't be able to get there in one meeting, to your point, Chief. Maybe it's 2 longer meetings where we try to hammer out as much as we can to get to a good draft place, and then a couple weeks later or a month later or something, come back and revisit it with fresh eyes and work towards a final plan.
Laura?
I very much agree with Ian. I believe that the community may have a lot of very useful points to be able to bring once we're planning on how to do our strategic plan. I think we really shouldn't do much until we hear what the community wants with this, being that it's a community partnership, a correctional community partnership. I think it's a good idea to wait for that. So yeah, that's what I was thinking also.
Sounds good. Tracy?
How do folks feel about meeting in person to do this versus over Zoom? Because the reason I say that is we don't tend to have super robust discussions over Zoom. It's a lot of blank faces and staring at each other. So, and I also am cognizant of what's going on with COVID right now. But if people are comfortable meeting, even if we're distance, I think that could make us a little bit more productive.
No, I agree. I think the in-person meetings are way more productive than the Zoom for us for whatever reason right now. So maybe we can schedule that. Time frame wise, I'll probably want to bring it to the board the first meeting in November, because if there's a lot of feedback and there's more work for us to do, I'll have to calendar. I think there's only one meeting in December. So that kind of puts us at a very busy August, September-ish time period. So maybe Clint and I can look at the calendar and maybe work with the group to propose a few dates and times. That'll be after the community meetings, so we have all of that input, and then we'll just have to really get to work and get it on paper. But if that's okay with the group and that's kind of how we want to proceed, I think that's very doable. Okay, Julie, I'll open up to public comment on this agenda item if we have any.
I have no hands raised, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Last comments on this topic with any of the members? Supervisor?
Yeah, thanks, Chief. The other thing you might consider is posting the draft version or whatever version you want on the website and letting folks know that it's there and they want to read it to comment, and maybe create a space for them to submit comments in whatever format. So it's not structured necessarily, but you can distill from that maybe some valuable comments that could be helpful in finalizing it.
That's a great idea. All right, we will close up with ending the meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is July 11th. If you do have agenda items, it'll be more of just a general meeting of the CCP. I'm sure we'll bring up the stuff we've discussed already, but if you have any specific agenda items you'd like to see on that meeting, please email or call Clint directly, and we'll make sure we get the agenda items on the meeting for everybody. With that, thanks everybody, and we'll see you soon.